Thank you all for sticking around for this last session. I'm sure it will be worth your while before you all party this evening. So the word crisis comes up again. The crisis in conveyancing. Is the system broken? If so, who's going to fix it? Did you just say yes? Yes, okay. So I hope you either... Have we got a roving mic, Helen, this one? Yes. Excellent. So... I do have a roving mic, so feel free, you can put a question in on Slido. Don't go red, you shouted out red, yes. So let's get some questions and get this conversation going. I'll let my panelists introduce themselves. We have Maria Harris, who's Director at Digital Cat Consultancy, Rob Hailstone, who's the MD of Bold Legal Group, Peter Ambrose, Managing Director of the Partnership, Indy Dubb, who's the founder and CEO of Under the Hammer Group, and Brian Mansell, co-founder and CEO of Gazelle. Did I pronounce that correctly? Gazelle?
Good enough.
How would you say?
We get called gazebo and gazelle and all sorts, so that's pretty close.
Gazebo. Don't worry, I won't be calling you Marjorie, so you'll be all right there. Let's just start with kind of establishing where you're all coming from, really. Rob, where are you coming from on this? Is there a crisis in conveyancing, and who should fix it?
Well, I'm coming from the...
Bless you.
Sorry? What was that? I'm coming from the conveyancer's perspective, which is probably going to take the room down even further now. I was a conveyancer for 30 years, got involved in information packs, and now I run the Bold Legal Group. I think part of the problem is that conveyancing has become far more cumbersome and complicated than it was at the turn of the century. When I was doing conveyancing, I had about 12 main tasks to do. Open a file, 2 searches, check the title, raise some inquiries, get the mortgage offer in exchange. It was pretty simple then. Unregistered land was complicated. But now, they've got about 30 steps rather than 10 or 12. It's a far more complicated and cumbersome procedure. I don't think any allowance is given to the conveyancers for that. Yes, we can use technology, but the tech isn't really there yet to speed up the process like that. So I think part of the problem is the job has changed and we need to cut the conveyancers some slack.
Indy.
I think we need to look at the core and where the issue originally starts from.
And what perspective are you coming from?
Right from the start, from the moment a listing is instructed. Because conveyancers come into the picture once a sale is agreed. And from my perspective, I believe, and from what I've seen, the issues is that sales are being agreed too quick, without upfront information and without any sort of certainty. It almost seems that we're so focused on just agreeing a sale, whereas we should be focused on agreeing sales up until the point that we're getting exchanged. And I think what's currently happening is we're agreeing sales, passing them on to the conveyancers and thinking, you guys just deal with it, and hoping that sales are getting through to completion. And that's the reason why we're seeing 30% fall throughs. So I don't think conveyancers are so much to blame in this. I think estate agents play a huge role, and we need to offer more security, more upfront information, and guarantee with every single sale that we pass on to conveyancers.
Okay, so the system perhaps
Yes.
needs streamlining.
Yeah.
Peter?
It's not broken because we sold loads of houses last year. If it was broken, then we wouldn't have sold all those houses. The problem is it's not broken enough. And that's the biggest thing that we see. What's the biggest thing that we're faced right now is there's a crisis in decent lawyers. There's a terrible crisis in a complete lack of use of technology. And there's a complete block on anyone saying, we want to change this. And it's got to come from within, otherwise it's not going to change. And people come from without and go, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Nah, it's got to come from within. And the only way it's going to happen is it's going to have to be forced on people.
Okay, Brian, where are you coming from?
I'm coming from the perspective of relationships between all of the people who are supposedly, as they used to do when I've spent most of my career in a estate agency, working for the same people, which is the people that are moving. And somehow, somewhere, I agree with Peter. I don't think there's a crisis. I don't think it's obviously can be better. It's an opportunity, perhaps. But my perspective is, why are we not all focusing on the customer, the people that are moving? Because people don't move for the hell of it. They move because something major is happening in their life. Well, certainly over the 30-odd years I've done it, that's what most of them have told me. And we used to have great relationships, with our lawyers. We used to spend time with them, and we had a great relationship with the seller that was based on trust and honesty. We had a great relationship with our conveyancers who used to tell us with trust and honesty what to help tell our customers and how they were going to move, so we could help manage expectations. And somewhere, somehow, down the line, it seems to have gone wrong. And I think that bit's broken more than anything else.
Last but not least, Maria.
Hi everyone. My first time here, so can I just say how lovely it is to see you all? I do not come from
You win the
property
award for
background.
the nicest person on the panel.
Yeah.
Damn, you forgot that was being nice, didn't you?
So my background's actually in customer experience. I've worked in several industries, including travel and utilities. But I got to design and build the UK's first digital mortgage with Atom Bank, which was the first app-only bank. And now I do lots of technology work with other banks and lenders and mortgage software platforms to help them digitise their customer experience. So I come very much from a customer journey and how to use technology to make it better perspective. Do I think there is a crisis? Is it broken? Absolutely. The customer experience is nothing short of horrific. Do I think it's just conveyancing? Absolutely not. It is the entire industry. We are like one huge water balloon where you squeeze one end and something pops up at the other. And we've all taken a turn at bashing each other. A few years ago it was banks, we were all rubbish, we moved the goalposts, we lost things. It was brokers who weren't filling in applications properly. It was the customer themselves because they weren't ready and didn't have all of their stuff that they needed to do everything. So we've all had the gun pointed at us at one time or another. So I think it's a collective issue.
Can you talk about the technology? Because I can't remember who brought it up, but just in terms of what needs to improve in terms of the technology.
Yeah, so this is going to sound like the oddest thing to say as somebody who does consultancy on digital transformation. Technology is not going to fix this industry. It's just not. And the reason for that, we have two absolutely humongous infrastructure challenges end-to-end on property. So the first one is, if you think about something like banking, how many of you use mobile app or online banking to ping payments to people? Every single person in the room. Your bank is not connected directly to my bank, to Rob's bank. If you want to ping a payment, all of the banks connect to the SWIFT network and the payment is done over the network. Consistent messaging, consistent format, consistent API standards, consistent security. We do not have a digital backbone in property. It just does not exist. We do not have a set of standards which are common, which have data dictionaries, which have technology and API standards. It just doesn't exist. Problem number one. Problem number two is our entire industry, for every single one of us to do our bit of the job, we're all relying on huge amounts of information. And right now, all of that information is on bits of paper, or things that we scan and upload, or forms that customers fill in, and us keying it into different systems. And it's the most undigital process you've ever seen in your life.
Your industry sounds so backwards.
It is, it's incredibly backwards. So out of all of the information that we need to get a transaction from someone finding a property to completing, less than 30% of it is available in an electronic format, and that would mean electronic. Out of all of that information, zero is available in a fair data digital format. Absolutely zero. So when you talk about why has nobody come in and disrupted the industry, that's why. There's no infrastructure and there is no digital data, which is why we've never had an Uber moment.
Peter, you brought up the technology issue.
It's a bit depressing to hear that technology isn't the answer, because clearly it is. I think if you go back 10 years ago, everyone said, why would you want a tablet? And Apple built a tablet, and everyone no one's going to use that, and they did. Build it, and they will come. I've been in technology for 25 years. Anyone that thinks that technology is not the answer is taking quite a narrow and quite a negative approach.
Why hasn't it been built yet then?
Sorry?
Why hasn't it been built yet?
Because it's not bad enough right now. It hasn't got bad enough. The reason it hasn't been built yet is because there hasn't been enough of a crisis with lawyers going, oh, I can't do this, because they can get by with old practices. So what we need is a good old recession. We need a lot of companies that get kicked out of the market that don't do it. They need to stop. We have a list of law firms who go, you need to stop, you need to stop, you need to stop, because they're the ones that are holding us all up. And that's what needs to happen. We just need more people giving up, so that then the people that do understand this stuff can go, now we can crack on.
Yeah, and I do agree with that, but technology is only as good as the connectivity and the data that drives it. Technology on its own doesn't change a process. And until we change the process and actually fix the infrastructure of the industry, we can keep throwing tech. That's why none of the technologies work so far.
It's sort of right and it's sort of wrong, because the principle is that I understand you understand the process, but there's nothing wrong with the process. What we've got, a bunch of information over there, we need to move it over there. Now, the way that we're doing it at the moment is doing it in big lumps of documents. All you've got to do is break that data down into smaller bits, and then you do the same thing all over again. We found this. So, for example, one of the biggest problems, and any agents in the room will know this, is when you get into the black hole of conveyancing, the middle bit, you know, the bit where no one knows what's going on. So what we did is we said, well, why don't we just share that information with everybody? And we started that 18 months ago, okay? Still the only company doing it. And I'm like, come on, yeah? So we provide all this information to the clients, to the agents, everyone knows what's going on. Now, we did it because we knew it was the right thing to do. And that's what it takes to effect change. It doesn't take government. It doesn't take someone producing a backbone that everybody hopes they'll hook into it. It takes people saying, I'm going to make a difference, and putting their neck on the line.
Brian.
But how do you know that's the right thing to do if you're in a chain and that chain is still slow?
Look, I'm not saying, that's like saying we should never change anything because we might not be able to change it, okay? Of course there'll be problems in a chain. But what you need to do is you need to force people to go, oh, maybe there's a better way. And if you don't do that, if you don't have evangelists, if you don't have people that are actually doing the work, then nothing's going to change. And at this point, someone pops up and goes, oh, I know, I think the government should get involved, yeah? That's the last thing we need, is the government getting involved. We need entrepreneurs that with the guts to drive things forward and go, this is what we need to do. And they're not doing it enough.
Excuse me, Brian.
Thanks, Rob. Rob, call me Rob, call him Brian. I agree with both of you. Okay.
That's the first, Brian.
Yeah, you won't hear me say it again. Basically, from the consumer's point of view, we must not forget ever that this is a major life event that they don't do very often. So actually, technology can definitely improve the process, but also human element is still required to give people advice and comfort in something of this magnitude, that with this much emotional pull, that is unlike anything else people buy. So we mustn't, we're either, I get this feeling, and I've heard so many discussions about this, it's technology, it's not technology, well, let's bring it together. There is a solution somewhere in the middle that suits everybody. And as a technology business, we have, without question, developed our technology initially, which was purely a SaaS model. There we go, you have it, you will use it. To now we are, talking to people probably more than our technology is, and the technology supports that conversation after we have confidence. So I think there's definitely somewhere between the both.
I think part of the problem is, though, as technology takes us forward, the legal process takes us back because it's becoming more and more complicated. SDLT is more complicated, HMLR delays, etc. There's more and more things that have got to be done. Section 21, deeds of variation, etc. Section 121 agreements, management companies holding things back. So there's more and more problems, and tech isn't really keeping up with those problems. The legal process needs to be streamlined.
Why can't you just look at, and I'm not a conveyancer, by the way, so I might get this wrong, but why not use the reserved activities for the lawyer to do personally? And then, how many problems do you have on a title, on average? Very rare.
Very rare.
On a title,
right?
no.
So actually, if you haven't got a major problem with title, what we're talking about here is a process that transfers the title from one person to another. It's what we're all doing. So if you don't have many problems on those titles, why can't technology, automate a lot of that process, but you keep the lawyers involved for the reserved activities?
Can I just ask, Indy, you're the tech entrepreneur.
Yes, thank you. So, tech...
Yeah, where have you sorted it?
It is sorted, and it's something we have been doing for the past 3 years, and I can tell you from first-hand experience, technology is absolutely fundamental to the success and for improving this entire home buying and selling process. And
okay, I'm not attacking you, but if you've been doing it for the last 3 years, why is no one else on board?
We've been working with 350 estate agents across the country.
So why are we discussing it now if it's not a problem?
Because there's 20,000
genuinely,
there's 20,000
genuinely, because we have been perfecting this product for the past 3 years. We have digged into every single element that is involved in order to achieve, the best and most fluid sales method, and we have done that. This year alone, we've supported over 1,000 transactions for estate agents. We've managed to reduce fall-throughs, which is national average of 30%, down to just 4%.
Can I ask, how many transactions a year?
About 1.2 million.
last year.
It's almost $1.5 million last year.
It's a start.
So, no, I'm genuinely not criticising, but what I don't understand is I'm talking to a bunch of experts here who have various views on whether technology works. You're saying you've helped with 1,000 transactions.
We've supported 1,000 transactions this year.
But there's 1 million. To me, it sounds as if your industry is archaic and slow.
The problem is, the problem that we've had is the willingness to change. We've come out of COVID. It's been a very, very busy market. Agents have been struggling for stock because, and again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Agents are so focused on just agreeing properties and getting it out and then leaving it with the conveyancers to deal with it. And that's why things are coming back to the start. The solution is actually simple, and it's been in front of us for a very long time. The banks, we know, if we look at the way banks do business, we know that when a deal's agreed, they have everything bang on. Let's look at the way a bank sells a property, for example. A bank does never take a property off the market when a sale's agreed. It stays on the market up until a point of an exchange. Has anyone sold repossessed or corporate properties here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has anyone had a fall through once it's exchanged?
No, not
Well, they don't fall through after exchange.
Exactly my point. So
No, none of them fall. Well, very few fall through after exchange.
But this is the point. We're so focused on just agreeing property sales, which is subject to contract, when the focus should be agreeing a sale to exchange of contracts, and that's what we have produced. We've produced a SaaS product which is advanced, and it's focused on getting a property to exchange as quick as possible, and that's why we've only got a 3% fall through.
Okay.
Technology gives agents time back. It's automating the whole process, and it allows them to focus on areas that are important.
To come back to your point, Naga, 1,000 properties out of 1.2 million. Yeah, it's shocking. And it is in a mess. The good news is that progress is being made. It just hasn't made it to the front of the queue yet. So, for example, we are seeing improvements with lending. There are improvements going on. For an example, okay, to get a redemption statement out of a lender, how hard can that be, right? It's a nightmare, okay? We're very pleased to see that we're getting rid of faxes soon, because they still use faxes.
And
a lot of people don't.
The lenders use the faxes, not the lawyers.
Yeah, that's what I mean, lenders. So, but now we're getting to the point whereby you've got the intermediaries, the LMSs of this world, that have got direct connections into the lenders. So the stuff is being done. The problem that we've got, it's all back office. And for the poor consumer, and I know I bought a house this year, absolutely shockingly dreadful experience. And we know what we're doing, yeah? We bought it, no communication, didn't know what was going on. It hasn't got to the consumer yet. It'll get there. It's going to take a bit of while. It's going to take a while. And as I say, I've said it once, I'll say it again, it's not broken enough. People buy houses, they do it once every 14 years on average. They just go, oh, that was a nightmare, and then they forget about it.
Fine.
I know that... Sorry.
No, well,
Sorry, Brian.
That's twice.
Twice, was it?
Yeah, you're Brian.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, I've forgotten what I was going to say, so you carry on.
I know HIPs came and went very quickly, but I think information up front is part of the solution. And if we can get...
funnily enough, someone's just messaged, it sounds like you're advocating the return of HIPs, the home information.
Definitely not the return of HIPs. The return HIPs were absolutely rubbish. Mm-hmm. They didn't do the job. But we could have built on them. They shouldn't have been scrapped. They should have been suspended, looked at and brought back in a better format. If you get a conveyancer involved on day one when a property is marketed, you can get them to build a pack, maybe an auction type pack. Auction packs, they sell on the day of the auction. There's no delay for that. So if you can get a proper exchange ready pack ready by the time a buyer is found, use the legally dead time when the property is still on the market to build the pack, I say.
That's exactly what we've done as part of our software. We provide a buyer's information pack, which includes land registry documents, title plan searches, TA6, TA10, along with any other information that are relevant. Also, standard contract of sale, so that it's in a position where a buyer can confidently proceed with that property, and they're in a position where they can confidently commit with that sale there and then. So, that is exactly what we do.
Brian.
Doesn't there need to be more education around it, though? Because it's all well and good having all this, but we've got chains to worry about. And if we've been providing upfront information for over 4 years now, directly licensed by the Law Society to do so. And the challenge that we have is not necessarily the willingness of the consumer to actually get it completed. It's actually the willingness of lawyers to adopt what has been completed by somebody else. So, I mean, interesting question, I think, for you guys.
Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges that we should be looking to overcome is helping the Law Society make it clearer to conveyancers and solicitors of what they can accept and what they can't accept. And surely that's got to be one of the first major steps forward to enable upfront information to be accepted by any conveyancer.
That is a major problem, and people skirt over it. I know Rob likes upfront information.
It's not the silver bullet, though, Peter.
Not the silver bullet. The problem with it as lawyers, I always say this to agents. Agents, when people don't like them, they throw rocks through their windows, okay? When they don't like lawyers, they sue us. And we've got people suing us for leaky windows, for poor water pressure, for broken showers. You name it, they'll sue us. And that is the problem, because what we're looking at is the provenance of the data. And this is where it all, unfortunately, gets a little bit squirrely. And that we have to be able to rely on it. Why? So that when we get sued, we can sue someone else. And this is what people don't get. We spend our lives being protected against a very, very litigious public now. And they will sue at the drop of a hat. No one believes us, and they do.
But Peter, surely, you know, the CQS, for example, there's some, we hear about it on a daily basis. There are some lawyers that are insisting on sending out a paper version of forms to be completed. Yeah. How broken does it have to be if that's the current standard for it to not get wanted to be fixed?
It's not that bad. That's the problem. You put it in the post. It's not that bad. We can sit, I mean, we never do it.
With Royal Mail strikes, it's a nightmare.
Well, then it's a bit tricky. But
Okay, Maria.
So let's just talk about how bad it actually is. So it takes longer to complete now than it did when I joined the industry in 2006. It takes longer to complete now than it did pre-COVID, even though everybody's allegedly moved to online. 85% of consumers said that buying a house was stressful. 1 in 4 said...
That hasn't changed, though, has it?
No.
The stress?
No. 1 in 4 said it was so emotional, it reduced them to tears. 1 in 8 said it made their mental health deteriorate. I don't know any other consumer-facing industry that would put up with that level of customer experience and that level of failure demand. You just wouldn't. You just wouldn't. And when you talk about provenance of data, that's exactly my second point about we don't have to have provenance of data. Data has to be in the right format. And right now, 0 of our data is in a fair data format. Literally none of it. Not one piece of data I've been able to find to support upfront information from Land Registry, from DLUC, from EPC ratings, council tax bandings, searches, anything. None of that source data has provenance attached. And until we fix that and have provenance of data and can apply trusted credentials and somebody can pick that up with absolute certainty of where it came from, that it's real time, that it came from the right place, no one's ever going to be able to trust it. And we have to fix the data.
And the lawyers will only trust it if they're told they can trust it by the Law Society and the regulators.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the technology will work.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But another example of that is we took on a customer the other day who couldn't work with his lawyer because he wanted to they asked him to do certified ID. Yeah, in other words, he had to take his original documents to the lawyer to get it copied and stamped to certified. And we went, we don't do that. No, that's amazing. Why don't you certify ID? I said, because our insurer said it was okay, our regulators said it was okay, and the lenders said it was okay. If they say it's okay for us.
Do you know what it is, though? You can go online on your mobile phone and buy any other thing with digital identity, but you can't do with the house.
But you can,
in the home buying process, the customer does their identity 4 times the customer goes through that process and gives somebody a physical copy of their passport or their driving licence, and someone looks at it and we still have impersonation fraud. So the process is broken.
Indy.
We have had a platform where consumers are able to interact any time of day and purchase your properties 24/7, and we've had this for the past 3 years. Now, let me just break down exactly what we've done, because every single element of what we are currently doing is 100% needed. The issue is it just needs to be rearranged. That is the only problem, and that's exactly what we've solved here. So what we do is initially there's a comprehensive buyer's information pack, which buyers can then obviously inspect and satisfy themselves prior to offering or even agreeing a sale with that property. Every single buyer can view it. Prior to a offer even being agreed, everyone gets their surveys done prior. If they're looking to do mortgages, for example, get that agreed, not an AIP, physically agreed, get the surveys done at that point. Once that's done then, a buyer is 100% confident that they'll know they will proceed to completion. At that point, they then enter through our platform at any time of day, make payment of a deposit, which again is decided by the seller. It could be as little as £2,000 or even £5,000, 5%, whatever the seller decides, because at the end of the day, as long as it's exchanged, the security is still there and it's still legally bound. They then have 8 weeks to complete, and because all of the upfront information is there, because everyone has satisfied themselves with lending and have that all approved, they've done any surveys that are needed, there is literally nothing left for anyone to do at this point. So when a buyer proceeds, they've got 8 weeks to just, complete, and that's the process that we're doing right now.
I think at the beginning of the process, sorry, Brian.
Brian.
I can't see you down there, Brian. I'm not doing it on purpose.
Brian.
I'm size of a set of car keys, obviously. That's great, and I'm a big champion of that, big fan of that. I think we'd all need to do something, but we also have to consider that there's chains involved in this country. We had a lot of agency gurus come over from Australia and the US telling us, we're doing everything wrong and we should be doing this and doing that. Yeah, great. Have you got chains in Australia? Nope. We have here. And actually, this is, and I agree with what my colleagues are saying here, we've been talking about this for so long.
Aren't you comparing apples with oranges when you
we are,
compare
exactly.
the property market?
So there needs to be something mapped out quite clearly by people like us, and then, we get people, to agencies who are all for it. I'm pretty sure, I speak for most people, that they want a shorter exchange, because it definitely helps cash flow. They've got businesses to operate. Consumers want it. The lawyers want it. We want it. Lenders want it. Why do we just not get on with it?
Rob, then Peter.
Thank you. I think what we want at the beginning is we want the seller's pack, but at the end of the transaction, we want a property logbook that we can bring back next time they sell it. And you've got all the documents in it, and the pack has grown whilst the client's been living at the property. You've got the guarantees for this, the guarantees for that, goes into the pack. So when you start your seller's pack next time, it's already there in the property logbook.
Yeah. Because if it's gone through a transaction, then it should be that the verification's done.
But I think this is coming.
Therefore, that's certified for the next time.
Although you are relying on property owners to kind of adhere to that and do it every year, which I wouldn't want to do.
No, if you looked at
Sorry, let me just get from Peter.
I just wanted to give another example. I don't agree with this idea that you can't do everything electronically, and I think it's that kind of thinking that's actually holding everybody back. We did the first electronic deed. We bought a house electronically. We were the first company ever to do it. Okay, we did it 2.5 years ago. Okay, we posted a transfer on land registry. We did all the ID electronically. We did this. Okay, it can be done. How many have we done since then? None. Do you know why? Because other lawyers won't accept it. Yeah. And this is the problem, right? We can't sit here saying the system's broken. It is not broken. We can't sit here saying, oh, you can't do things electronically. You can, because we've done it. The problem is that we need more people vocalizing about this. Why is it? We had someone last week in Singapore. We said, great, we needed to exchange, we needed to transfer. We went, great, electronic, do it. We can do it. What did the other lawyer say? No, I don't accept electronic transfers. End of deal.
But you have got lawyers doing exactly that in commercial property.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But but the same lawyer refuses to do it in residential property. This is the problem, and it's not to do with the fact you can't do this. And what I want everybody to take away from this is you can do it. The problem is you need to kick out those lawyers who say you can't do it. Yeah. Those lawyers that are saying, oh, you need certified ID. Get out and go and do something else.
We haven't got enough lawyers as it is.
Well, it is a tricky one, I agree.
Well, we got roughly 4,000 conveyancing firms, and about 30,000 are what we call the long tail, who are the slow, Dickensian firms, and that is a problem in the industry.
It is a problem, yeah, and they need to stop.
And this is the tale after COVID, right? After the pandemic, or probably, in all fairness, the hangover from the financial crisis in 2009.
It's very difficult because what they don't have is they don't have the money to spend on it, and frankly, the technology that's out there is dire. Yeah,
and their margins are being squeezed by referrals, and they're not getting paid. There's not a lot of margin in conveyancing.
They're not enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to come back to something. So for consumers, I absolutely agree, but it's made so easy for everything else that you do in your life, where, if you want your car record, you want to know when your car was last MOT'd, when it was last serviced, like it's literally on your phone. So we need to find a way to give consumers control of that back, because if I buy a property, I want to know the data about that property, I want to know what it is that I've bought, and when I'm living in it, I want to know how do I be a responsible homeowner, how do I get access to funding if I want to do renovations, or if I want to go carbon neutral and all of that things, and we should give consumers the power to do that. But one of the things
sorry, can I just say, just from a consumer and dumbass point of view, I think when it comes to things like knowing about your car, because we have to have it MOT'd every year, that's the kind of the incentive to go online and kind of check, or if you get points, as I recently got, in your license, you check for insurance, whatever, because it's something you have to renew every year. I think when it comes to property, it seems like such an upheaval to buy a property. Once you're in, you just kind of breathe a sigh of relief and you just go, great, I've got that bit of my life sorted. I'm not going to bother about it till, on average, 14 years, whatever, until I have to think about it again. It's just one extra thing to think about.
It is. It's like childbirth. It's so painful, and once it's over, you don't ever want to think about it again. but it is because we make it so painful, and owning your own house is something that people genuinely aspire to, and it changes people's lives, and we shouldn't make it so painful. So we need to find a way to make it not painful and make it engaging.
There would have to be something annual, though, wouldn't there, for us to prescribe to, in the way, that's what I'm trying to kind of bring that parallel to having a car, because the insurance renewal, the MOT, or your points or whatever.
Yeah, it's not even that it's annual, it's just that it's kind of real time, and it's there, and you don't have to think about it. You get prompted when you need to do things. Like you as a consumer, it's a bit like Netflix. You don't go looking on Netflix for stuff to watch. Netflix tells you would enjoy watching this based on the thing you last watched, or based on people like you watching. Why would it not be the same for your home?
Because it's pleasure. I'm genuinely not. Yeah, Netflix is pleasure.
Yeah.
Having a house
home
is,
buy and pain.
But also owning a house and thinking about council tax, thinking about repairs and all that, you've kind of got other things to think about. So to think then about technical stuff that feels so far away. I'm kind of just diving in to kind of provoke a bit of conversation, but if you don't have to think about that extra thing in life, when we say we're so time poor, why would you?
Yeah. But Naga, if you have an extension built or new windows put in or central heating, what do you do with the planning permissions or the document? Where do you keep them? It used to be in a shoebox in the loft, but now you can upload them into a property logbook if you wanted to, and they're there forever then. So you do get them, and you do keep them somewhere. It just takes you weeks to find them when you sell your property.
But there's the problem, though. You said if you wanted to. It's exactly what they were saying.
What's my incentive?
There's no reason.
Well, the system's not there for you to do yet.
You would never do it, Rob. It's cloud cuckoo land, isn't it? I mean, I've bought a house. I don't know what I'm going to do. Every time something changes, I get a boiler. I'm going to log onto the system. I'm going to upload it. Seriously, mate.
But you're all for technology, aren't you?
Yeah, but they're not going to do
technology. And now you're saying don't use technology.
No, because you shouldn't have that document in the first place. That's the whole point, but no one gets it because they're trying to take this analog situation. I've got a fencer certificate. It's like, you're having a laugh, aren't you? I'm going to upload that onto a logbook, right? No. What you do is fencers should go, where's that property? It sticks it straight in there. This is the problem. We're taking analog solutions and trying to digitize them. It's like...
That's the way property logbooks will evolve.
But that's not technology. It's
not technology.
The banks didn't go online. They provided existing services digitally. The banks provided existing services digitally. They didn't revolutionise the banking industry. It took new banks and new businesses to do that.
Maria?
Yeah, so partly, yes, partly the neobanks, but the neobanks were born out of... I want to say mandation, it's not quite mandation. If you look at what happened with things like open banking, that was driven by the Competition Market Authority saying, this is a really poor customer experience and you need to fix this. You need to create standards, you need to be able to share that data, you need to be able to enable things like property passports to be a really good experience. And it was the banks were forced to do it. And it's the same with things like the SWIFT network for payments. The international banking standards are set by centralised banks, and that whole structure is there to make it happen. We don't don't have that for property, and somebody needs to take ownership of that and say, we need standards, we need common frameworks, we need trust frameworks. Somebody needs to work on having that actual, the framework that you have for things like open banking.
Who do you think it should be for property?
Well, in an ideal world, so that one, let's say, open banking came from Competition Market Authority. The problem with property is not owned by one bit of government, and it's not like banking where it's Bank of England, it's central bank. Property is owned across BEIS, DLUC, Land Registry, Geoplace, so many different, one department needs to own it or have oversight of it.
I'm going to get the microphone out because there were two people I spotted here. This lovely lady who's turned her head to me right now. Sarah, let me give you the microphone.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't want to do that.
Give me your thoughts on what's been discussed so far.
In 2 minutes.
Sorry, thanks. Thank you. Seriously, it's really interesting. And Maria, I really found your comments particularly insightful because I think that there are, well, I know that there are 1,000 prop tech businesses in the UK and 10,000 globally, all of them trying to solve problems, some of them that don't exist. Sorry. But on a serious note, here we are trying to debate something that we've been debated with the greatest respect, the same conversation we've been having for, well, certainly since I've been coming to these conferences for the last 5 years. And change is not happening. And we can, with the best will in the world, we can raise our voices, we can will change, but it's not actually happening because these prop tech businesses are not connected in a way, and they are not there's no legislation driving them. So it's lots of people with really good intentions trying their very best to do the right thing, but it's not actually changing because we don't have the infrastructure to change. And I think whole scale change is needed. But to your point around if the property logbook, which I'm a huge fan of, back of a fact packet calculation says that's 27 years if we do 1 million transactions. We can't wait 27 years. Crikey. No. So actually, I think there's got to be some lobbying, and I think there are organisations that should be doing better at that and are not. And so we ought to start lobbying, and the government do play a role in this, but unfortunately, it doesn't win votes.
There's a hand up at the back in the room there. Thanks, Helen. Gentleman just sitting on the end in the middle, and then I'm going to come to you, if that's all right.
Hi, thank you. So, interesting conversation. Let me just ask a very sort of short question. Is regulation a sort of absent here, and would that help the system?
I mean, conveyancing is a regulated activity. We spend our days making sure we follow the regulations. The problem is it's very light touch. And so we rarely have a situation where something, we will see, we had, for example, someone on the other side breach an undertaking to pay off a mortgage. They didn't pay off a mortgage, didn't do it. And they were supposed to have done it, okay? We reported them to the regulator and said, that's really bad. You should have paid off that mortgage. And you know what the regulator said? Yeah, sort it out yourselves.
It's funny, there's always a fine line between regulation, because it's the first time I've heard anyone in any industry moan about regulation being too light touch.
It is light touch. I mean, I'm not a fan of it, but it should give you a chance. But unfortunately, in our direct experience, we don't see, I don't know about you, Rob, but have you ever seen a regulator go, you don't do that?
They don't enforce things enough, no, unfortunately. No. But there's too much regulation in other areas. They watch us, what we do. If we get it wrong, they come down hard on us. Yeah. But if somebody else gets it wrong, they don't chase them.
It's very strange.
Brian, you will get...
Yeah, I'm a fan of regulation for estate agents. I mean, some agents won't be, and I've been an agent for a very, very long time. I'm a big fan of, the trust for the public that can create by a regulated industry that has, recourse and has dispute resolutions and so on and so on. And it's kind of like more of a first-class service. But like everybody, having worked in the financial services industry, there's a potential over-regulation and lack of policing, which there's a lot of evidence for trading standards already, the lack of policing of the improved standards. So, but I definitely think to answer your question, I think it's a must.
Maria?
Yeah. So we obviously do have lots of regulation across the industry, some more intrusive than others. Certainly if you work in banking, the regulation's absolutely shit hot, as you would expect. In other industries, not so much, but there is not one piece of legislation that covers the end-to-end process of buying a home. But we also have a government strategy, which DCMS published in 2020, to say that all government data should be made findable, accessible, interoperable and reusable under the fair data principles. And if you look at land registry, geospatial, energy performance certificates, council tax data, and ask them when are you planning to make that data available in fair data format, there's only land registry that have an actual digital roadmap, and there's no budget currently secured to make it happen. So when you're talking about all your forms and your 5-year roadmap, and you ask then, well, why are the lawyers taking so long? And you have to go and look at every single piece of title, because most of the leases are on bits of paper that somebody has to go and get out of a warehouse and somebody physically has to check. So until we fix that, the regulation needs to go cross-cutting.
We started this with the question, is there a crisis in conveyancing? And you, I don't know your name, I apologise, I'm going to get the microphone to you. You shouted out, yes. Tell me your thoughts.
Hi, I'm Leanne. I'm an estate agent for 15 years, had my own agency for 8 years. I'll try not to rant. But I think the whole system is broken. It is archaic. And most recently, conveyancing process has been an absolute nightmare. I'm not one of those agents that just lets the solicitors deal with my pipeline. I have had great relationships with the solicitors for the past 15 years, and I can only just give you some recent examples. I had a chain of 3, and the solicitor let it all go through to exchange of contracts. I was giving my buyers regular updates, and it got to the day where we were due to exchange to complete the following week, and the solicitor rang me and said it can't go ahead. My client is £9,000 short from redeeming a mortgage. Her client was elderly and disabled. We had first-time buyers at the beginning and a lovely couple in the middle going through IVF. So the emotions the whole way through this were horrendous. For £9,000, I'm like, this cannot fall through. Can you help? Can we do a reduction, and can we pass that pot of money up the chain? And they're saying no. That's, how they were passing this money up can't be done. We need to go back to new mortgage offers. Yeah. And I'm just the estate agent here. There must be a way to do this. I said, let me speak to these people in the chain. Can we get this £9,000 together? Yes, we did. I was being met with objections by the solicitor every step of the way. We did get it through.
Well done.
Yeah.
But that's a really great example that you've given there, okay, where we do bat up against regulations and knowledge. I remember getting shouted at by an agent because we had to report a £10,000 allowance to the lender. We had to do it because the lender insisted, and yet we get shouted at. And I'm not passing the buck here for a second, but sometimes you trip over these problems. And I think the fundamental issue where people get it wrong is this stuff's quite tricky. And when we get a situation like that, you go, it's so obvious. All we need is £9,000. Come on, find it from somewhere. And then someone goes, oh, you need a new mortgage offer. And you go, well, there's 2 weeks gone.
But this almost goes back to my point at the beginning about the conveyancing process being more complicated now. Back in the day, we could have done that. We would have agreed that, and it would have been exchanged and completed. I had a client come into me many years ago. He had cash in the bank. He wanted to buy an empty property. We exchanged contracts within 24 hours. I went and looked at the title. I did a personal search, got the inquiries dealt with by the other lawyer, and we exchanged. And the seller said, we'll complete the next day. And I would have actually gone in the Guinness Book of Records, but they changed their mind and said, it's too quick. We need 3 more days to move out.
To do it, yeah.
But you can't do that now.
We had one just recently, solicitor exchange, didn't read the mortgage conditions, came to day of completion, and the top of the chain wasn't allowed to complete, effectively homeless for over a week until they got the condition met on the mortgage. Who is accountable for all this stuff that's happening? There's no regulation.
And when are they accountable for telling you?
Exactly, exactly.
And it's always at the last minute.
We're picking up the pieces and dealing with the emotions, and there's no accountability at the conveyancing level.
Can I ask you to pass the mic? I've got 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Can you just make a very quick point? Is that okay?
Hi. Yes.
Hi.
Sorry. So that was quick. Well, this is Sachin Gupta from 99 Home. My suggestion, say like that, if the property goes on sale in Scotland, we generally instruct the solicitor first. If we practice this in England and Wales, I guess that half of the solution can be given this way. So if we just modify the way our government say that the process can be modified in a manner that as soon as somebody decides to sell the property, go to the estate agent's market appraisal is conducted, the agent should say, why don't you appoint solicitors? It shows their commitment to sell the property, and the solicitors will guide even better them in advance.
Let's get a thought on that, and I'll just get the microphone to this
So they
gentleman.
do, a lot of estate agents do give that advice to people. It's whether the advice is acted upon, and then if they are instructing lawyers, it's then what is the work that the lawyer is doing at the very beginning.
And it's very difficult. We deal with a lot of people that go, oh, you know what, I don't want to instruct you right now. It's so emotional. And we always encourage this. It's a great idea, but again, you're hitting human emotion.
And in Scotland, the lawyers are in control, aren't they, more than the estate agents?
I agree with you, though. I think it should
Good
be
idea, though.
mandated.
Good point.
I think upfront information and instructing your conveyancer when you list should be mandated for all sellers.
Totally agree.
You're going to get a final 15. Well done. Sir, you're going to get a final 15 seconds.
Hi, I'm Simon. I've been doing this for 30-odd years. There are 6 of you up there on the panel, and you've all got the answers between you.
5. I'm just
What
the
does
moderator.
Should there be, or is there somebody that could step in and make you all join together and create the standard that we all want so our businesses will operate smoothly?
You stole my last question.
We're all very
Brilliant.
keen to do that.
This
Great
is
question.
the last answer. So make it pithy. No, we haven't got time, Maria. Don't you dare do my role.
I'll do that.
I won't do yours either. Maria, let's answer this question with as a final thought.
Okay, so that group does exist. I chair it. It's called the Home Buying and Selling Technology Group. We've been working since last June. We've created an open data property trust framework. We've written the JSON schemas and the API specs, and we have a group of volunteers who are about to go into beta testing, and we're working with the government departments to sell them to get their data in order so we can digitise the whole thing. Please come and join the group.
Brian, no, you can ask after. Brian, just so you get in before Rob this time.
What was the question? Sorry, I was one of the in the group.
Why have you not got someone that's, can link all of you?
Yeah, well, I mean, collaboration is the key. Collaboration, I said at the very beginning about relationships. I think, that starts with us having the relationships and having the willingness as people and in government as well. Our company works with the government and trading standards. We have done for years. So actually, we're really, really keen to collaborate. We just need everybody else to agree to the same thing.
Indy.
Yeah, exactly as Brian says, collaboration is fundamental. We've all got the same goal here, and I think how we achieve it, it doesn't matter as long as the goal's the same, whether someone uses Gazelle, someone uses Advanced, it doesn't really matter. There's a different solution for everything out there, and I think one thing we need to be careful of is not to tie ourselves into anything exclusive with exclusivity. Keep options open, spread your risks, and make sure you've got plenty of options within your toolbox.
Rob.
I'm with Maria on this. I'm riding on her shirt tails. She's going to make it work, and I'm there helping her.
We've forgotten about the lenders, guys. That's what you need. But the good news is you've got LMS coming over the hillside that's helping that. It's the lenders. Everyone seems to ignore them, okay? They need to be in on this. You need the money men on this stuff. And doing this in a vacuum is great, and we'll support it, and that's great and all that. You ain't got the lenders on board, you ain't doing nothing.
You have been a fantastic panel, and I know this. See, for the last panel, this was worth waiting for, I tell you. Thank you so much. So, Brian, well done for getting words in. Indy, over Rob. Indy, thank you very much. Peter, thank you. Rob, you're a star. And Maria, you're absolutely brilliant as well. Good luck with all the businesses. Thank you for opening my eyes. Thank you all for participating and, being engaged and being in the room as well. I understand you all have a brilliant evening ahead. Do enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed the day today. I know the organisers are thrilled with kind of the participation and the quality of panellists today. I think they're a bit disappointed with their host, but hey-ho, you'll have someone new next year, I imagine. Listen, have a brilliant time tonight. Have fun, take care, look after each other, and let's hope the industry gets its act together soon. Take care.